All right, everybody, welcome to the Lair of Secrets podcast, actual play for Cyberpunk RED. When last we played, which was quite a while ago, after cracking open the Titan 1X prototype rig and securing the black box that the Make Enclave had hired the edgerunners to acquire, they caught sight of an inbound Zetatech-branded AeroCop. This armored attack craft landed, and its leader, Isabela, Izzy Cordero, explained that the corporation had been tracking the payload specifically to find the edgerunners and make them a deal. 10,000 euro bucks each upfront to spy on the makers for them. The edgerunners rejected the deal, slamming the corpos, and a firefight broke out. Through grit, luck, and a lot of bullets, the edgerunners made it away. Atlas took a critical wound after being shot, but survived. Many of the Zetatech operatives went down, but Izzy survived and swore vengeance. The team is now preparing to meet with Omen, their nomads, cousins, land-based cousins, because Omen is actually more of a seafaring nomad. So that's where we left off. You have the Titan 1X, which is this big sort of self-driving rig. The way I was imagining it was like the sort of the rigs from Logan, the Wolverine movie, Old Man Logan. Okay. And so big sort of thunderous sort of thing. It had manual controls inside, which everybody was able to take advantage of to hotwire this thing and get it moving. And so you have your own vehicle that had been lent to you by the nomads, which I believe you also were able to get away with. So you are now driving down State Route 101 and making a rendezvous with the nomads whom you had made contact with previously. So it's basically a nomad forward camp. So in Cyberpunk RED, which is set on or about 2045, we haven't picked a specific year, but although we will, because I'm finding out that the calendars are actually kind of important for keeping track of stuff. But anyway, 2045, there was the Fourth Corporate War, and the United States is not in great shape. Nomads control basically all of the transportation between cities. They're the ones who are moving goods around, heavily armored and what have you. And so people aren't just like jumping on the interstate to run down to Los Angeles, right? Like there's, if you want to most people don't actually want to leave the city. If they do, they're probably doing it in the companies of nomads. And so it's a big deal that Stormhold, which was the company that developed the self-driving rig, was like, we have a plan for this. We're going to restore interstate commerce with our self-driving trucks. You now have this truck, and part of your deal was to turn it over to the nomads. When you arrive in camp, we are also, as an aside, testing out some new technology. We're trying out Riverside which is a streaming platform to capture video and get it back and deal with some audio issues. And technology issues that we've had the last few times. We're trying not to have Angry Bob get shorted out.
Yeah.
Yet again.
Yeah, no more electromagnets near my recording equipment.
Yeah. So you arrive in camp. You are greeted by Rachel Razorhawk Thompson and four of her associates. So this is like a forward camp for the nomads. Basically, they have them kind of scattered throughout California, where you can they'll come into this camp, set up a trade deal, move on. This isn't like the main nomad rally point or what have you. This isn't the moving village sort of thing that we saw in 2077. So there's only a handful of people here, but they only needed a handful of people to complete the deal. So next to her, so Razorhawk comes up and So Aaron, you tell me, how do nomad, they're all just one big extended family. So how do nomads greet one another, or how does your extended clan greet one another? So hugs and kisses, or is it just steely-eyed nods?
First, I'm going to go with first an extension of hands, and then kind of pulling each other in for hugs. As they're a family, so a greater extended family, and whoever you work with will change on a fairly frequent basis on a run, so you've got to all trust each other. So it's a big giant family.
That's what I was figuring, but I didn't want to assume anything. So, so she gives you, that significant hug, like pats on the backs and what have you, and like and then she nods off to so that you guys are like driving the rig into the camp, and it's like sort of rumbling in, and a number of the other people who are necessarily associated with the trade-off come out, and like they're nodding knowingly, and Rachel looks to you and says, "You have delivered. That is a very impressive rig. We can't wait to take it apart." Did you have any difficulties?
A lot, and some corpos tried to get us to change sides, though many of them are dead now.
You might want to look for other tracking stuff on there too.
And,
yes, yeah, there is tracking devices on there, and it wasn't a good deal. It was a bad deal.
Were you followed?
I think we lost them. Mostly we killed a lot of them. So the largest concern is we probably need to stay out of the city for a little bit, because one of them got away. One of them's alive, and she knows our faces, knows our names, and she's going to be putting a tag on our back.
Although she's walking back.
This is true. The AeroCop was destroyed. So Rachel nods knowingly and just she turns and says, "All right, Wrench, why don't you and the boys start tearing this thing down? And you heard Omen. Take a look for any tracking devices, and like they'll roll it into sort of like a wire mesh net cage, which is intended to block radio signals or any other things getting out of it. This is not their first rodeo dealing corporate tech. They are more than happy to put you up. So Rachel, she's I should have described her. She's clearly a tough customer. Cyber arm reinforced with like titanium micro struts for increased durability and strength, and she's got a skin weave that is like, it doesn't sparkle in the sun. Rather, it just kind of absorbs the sunlight, and just her appearance is very muted. This other guy comes up. Clearly, his name is Wrench, Danny Wrench O'Connor. He's got a Kang Tao Type 97 submachine gun kind of hanging from a strap around his neck, and he's got like this a utility vest overflowing with spare parts and gadgets, and then a cybernetic tool hand that, as you watch, he's like approaching it. You can just see he's like rotating through the like sort of the mental menu of all the different things that his tool hand can do, right? So it's like popping out the screwdriver, and then it folds back in, and then the laser cutter pops out, and like what have you, right? And he is exceedingly eager to tear this thing down. Rachel just gives you, or rather Razorhawk gives you like a big wolfish grin as she sees Wrench going over, and like the crew starts to descend on it, and they and start tearing things apart. You can see through the wire mesh as they're just like exceedingly like it's like this is like a chop shop, right? Like they're taking it apart, they're documenting it as they do so, like to figure out which piece goes where, and starting to like lay it off to us. Once they've screened it, they start assembling thing off to the side. And she says, Big Mama is very impressed with your work, and we might have some additional work for you in the future. And so this, we had the deal, but we feel like we can offer you a little bit more. You are family. And she kind of looks to everybody else around you. And your family is welcome here. So we're more than happy to put you up for a couple of days while we tear this thing down. And, if there's any particular gear that you would like, you can go visit Arnold over at the Gear Shack, and he will hook you up. So out of game, like basically up to a piece of gear up to 200 EVs in worth can be acquired from them.
Ooh. Is that each of us?
Each.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
So, sorry to interrupt. I'm doing this documentary thing on edgerunners. I was wondering if you'd be okay with me filming, keeping everybody's names out of it, faces out of it if need be, but trying to bring light to the plight of everybody out here and what the corps are doing to the world.
I think Razorhawk kind of takes a step back and is like, this is family business.
That's why I asked.
APT chuckles a bit at this. APT just kind of grins.
Well, I will applaud your motivations. There are things that should be known about the nomad lifestyle that should only be known by nomads and perhaps a few trusted associates. It is not the sort of thing that should be broadcast to the larger world or even Night City.
All right.
That's why I flexes her cybernetic arm a little bit.
Angry Bob is biting back a sarcastic, oh, you mean like the nude orgies out in the dusty desert here? But he bites that back because, well, there's more of them than there are of him, and they're a lot smarter than the gangers that we dealt with earlier.
This is true. So I will say, just as an aside, the focus of this episode is really on downtime. We had some folks talk about like, hey, it'd be cool if you showed your downtime. So this is going to be less high action and more figuring out what our characters are doing when they're not edge running. And also part of this is figuring out the economy of Cyberpunk RED, because the crew is paid $500 up front. They have 500 Eurobucks up front, and then we're going to get another 500 on the backside. But as we're finding, as we get into like the economy, that doesn't go very far.
Nope.
So we're going to be figuring out people's lifestyles, what kind of stuff they'd want to be, just how big of a gift is gear up to 200 EVs. So
do we still have to go back to our fixer and get the other 500?
You have to meet up with the makers and drop off the black
maker.
box.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. So the Maker Enclave has already established like the drop point.
Okay.
You would have gotten a ping about that. So so how bad? So I forget, Josh. How badly beat up is Atlas? I know we were looking at this before offline, but
I had a foreign object. That was where, like, if I moved more than like four yards or something like that, I resuffered damage. But it was a first aid. It was just a first aid check with a 13 difficulty, and it looks like we already did it because I have a roll for a 15 first aid. So
yeah, I think you took the whatever piece of metal shrapnel out of you, and then, but you're still injured. So
yeah, like I'm still like at 30 or 45 HP right now. Right. So I'm not feeling too great.
Right. So
but we pulled the bullet out of me.
I don't think anybody else is injured, are they?
No.
No, I wasn't injured.
We got off remarkably easy.
The solo did his job really well.
Yes, he did.
Shot things and was the bullet sponge. Very good. All
right. Wait, here's healing. I have my tab set up in the book, so I don't have to remember what stuff is called, because the healing chapter is called Trauma Team, which I love how things are evocative in the naming of the chapters, but it doesn't really help my brain when what I'm looking for is like health and healing.
Page 188 is the critical injury chart, if that's what you were looking for.
No, I was looking for how to recover.
Oh, just recover.
So I was looking through and I'm going like, well, Angry Bob doesn't really need a lot of cyberware or anything like that. And then I just happened to open up the book and I see shoulder cam and I'm like, wait, what? Oh, it's a cyber arm option. Maybe Bob needs to replace his arm. It's a pop-up camera in the user's shoulder that tracks independently of the user and records video and audio to an onboard memory chip or a linked agent. So, and it can be successfully concealed without a check and can be drawn and stowed without an action. So that's like Angry Bob's like familiar at that point, you know? All right, Ted, get some footage.
Well, I can give you some downtime actions. Omen was really pissed last session at the end at killing all those people and ending up with a giant target on their backs. Could have just said no and gotten out kind of cleanly, but now there's sort of a blood debt owed, and Izzy Cordero is going to come after us no matter how much money. There's basically going to be no swaying her that much. She's going to come after us. Omen drove back really silent and angry the last time, but then now seeing the nomads has calmed her down just a smidge so that she's not going to explode at everybody else here. She's going to go and work some of that off with some martial arts, which she was trying to train in anyway.
Cool. So I will. So I found the page just to talk about healing. So because this is really only relevant to Atlas. We'll come back to you in one sec. But it says once a successful stabilization has been reached, the target will heal a number of hit points equal to their body for each full day they spend resting, spending the majority of each day taking it easy and doing only light activity until they're full HP again. If the patient pushes it, they will gain no HP that day, and the wounds will reopen, and they will need to receive stabilization again to restart the healing process. Unless you're mortally wounded, but you're not mortally wounded. Yeah. So how many days is it going to take you to get back up to full, Josh?
My body is 7, so like 2 point something, 2 point low number. 2 days would get me back up to 44 or 45. Let's put it that way.
Okay, so basically, we'll say it's basically 3 days.
Yeah.
And is it the intent? So it's probably going to take them 3 days to tear this thing down. Is your intention to I don't know that you have a specific, the makers are looking for it to be delivered. But we'll talk about that in a sec. So obviously Atlas needs to chill and rest for a bit, and the nomads have already said they're willing to put you up. I'm assuming it's going to take a couple of days for them to really tear down and document the Titan. So I don't remember if I had this in the notes about whose fixer actually made contact for the initial deal. Did we ever figure that out? Was it APT?
Yeah, it was mine, if I remember correctly.
Okay. Yeah, because I only have
enemies. Netrunner APT.
I don't know why.
Have you met you?
I don't know why.
I'm sorry, David. I keep picking an angry Bob. APT has a thing about media. I'm sorry.
Did we have a name for your fixer contact, Chris?
We did. I gotta find it. Just a second. Let me see if it's in my character sheet. I might have put it in the relationships. Path friends. Bastien Leclerc.
Okay, cool. So that was Bastien Leclerc?
Yeah, he goes by Priest.
Okay. So you get a ping from Priest who informs you that, you basically, I'm assuming, I'm not going to assume anything. So the job is done. Everybody's starting to rest. So Omen does actually go off, so I'm assuming this is sort of like the smoldering anger, just you just need to go off and punch something sort of thing. And I'm guessing everybody's going to pick up on that vibe.
Yes. She tries to play it as cool as she can when meeting the other nomads because that's family. But yeah, soon after she can break away and go and do her active pouting.
So is there going to be? So is it presumably the nomads, even in their downtime, they're continuing to work out and what have you, right? So I'm assuming that there's an old punching bag or something. So would people hear Omen kind of walk off, and then there's a series of heavy thuds and grunts as she's just taking out all of her frustrations on the bag, or what? How
that is absolutely the plan. Go find a body bag and beat the crap out of it. She is trying to work into martial arts because despite being in a world that she is in with guns and everything, guns are not her favorite weapon. She prefers sneaking up and just getting a little bit more hands-on, punching people, and I don't know. There's something tactile about Omen's world and guns lack that tactileness. She can't feel the road, can't feel the skin of a hit. So she's going to be beating her knuckles down to bruises, and quite probably the first layer of skin is going to be gone.
I think Bob's going to go talk to Omen after a little bit. And
let her wear herself out first, otherwise you're the next punching
Well, I don't know
bag.
if Angry. So hold on. So Angry Bob had asked to record, but was denied, and then he's like, "Huh, cyber arms, eh?"
yeah,
Owen walks off pissed, and so APT, you're the one who has the contact. Like, so Atlas presumably just kind of like lowers himself to the ground, pops a beer, and is like, Is that about accurate, Josh?
Pretty much, yeah. He's just gonna. All right, you guys have fun doing what you're doing. I'm just gonna lay here for a while.
Yeah, APT is going to grab a seat at one of the tables nearby and just call Priest, let him know the job's done.
So, how much detail do you go into about, like, so he'll acknowledge that the job was completed. He informs you that the makers have a basically rotating algorithm that they use to determine where to do meetups based on the time.
Mm-hmm.
But like just in time meetup, they don't like to presuppose where they're going to be and give their enemies an opportunity to ambush them. So he gives you the direct, like, sort of cyber card contact for Athena, who was one of the people whom you had met with at Tom's Diner. And do you give him any additional information about how the job went, or is it more just like, it's done?
Pure business.
Okay.
It's done. Unless he asks something, I'm not volunteering anything.
Okay. Okay, so per the deal, you will get your final payment after you do the meetup with Athena.
Okay.
All right, so let's see. So that's about it for now. Is there anything else that APT is doing immediately after the I'm assuming it's a couple hours have passed, but it's not like significant developments would never necessarily have happened.
Probably wander over to that the vendor tent. See, I've got my eye out. I'm looking for a backup drive for my cyber deck. So
okay,
if they have one of those, I'm gonna pick one up.
is that?
I think that seems like exactly the sort of thing that nomads would have.
Yep.
I don't know what the equivalent is with. So how much does it go for in the?
100.
Okay.
So yeah,
So
I
you
mean,
say something, David?
I was just wondering what it was like in terms of equipment.
as far as the game goes, a backup drive, when it's installed on a cyber deck, it saves non-black ice attacker, defender, and booster programs that are destroyed by pulling them into the backup drive an instant before they meet their end.
Okay.
Which means that I don't have to rebuy things.
So that would be probably be under the cyberware stuff or the cyber deck stuff. I was looking at the master gear list, which lists cyber decks, and I was looking for it there, and then realized, we have cyber deck hardware, which is a separate list.
Yeah, it's in cyber deck hardware. It takes up 2 slots.
Yep. I think that's a excellent purchase.
Yeah, so it's a little dusty, kind of beat up. Probably was taken from a deck that had been shredded, but it's white and totally adequate, right? Like, it's refurbished.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And it takes about an hour to install. So APT will get her toolkit out and get to work just to kind of kill time.
So remind me, because I have notes from our last adventure, but I don't. I was trying to remember exactly how the shooting started. So
they started it.
Was it like?
No, I don't remember. I don't remember.
Atlas wanted to.
I think it's.
Atlas wanted to take out the rest of the party. He wanted to use his grenade or his launcher. I remember because I was like, "Oh, Omen is really pissed about that."
So you wanted to try out his new rocket launcher on the corpse, on the corpos?
Yeah,
pretty much. That was my recollection.
Cool. So, it's angry. So some time passes. Angry Bob, you're going to try and go talk to Omen.
Yeah. So,
You're waiting until she's collapsed in a heap, I presume.
I'll wait till she's got like a water break sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So
You walk up, she'll shoot daggers, and, her eyes will shoot daggers at you.
So why are you so upset? It's obvious, but we got away. Things are pretty good.
You said yourself. It's obvious. What needs to be said?
I don't know why are you upset? Like, I don't know. I don't get it.
Then it's not obvious. Man, media. Keep it plain.
It's obvious to me that we got away pretty clean. So
We didn't get away clean. We've got giant targets on our back. What are you
clean as you
talking
can get in
about?
edge running.
You realize that she's never going to stop hunting us. You realize that, right?
You make a lot of enemies in this business.
Okay, but we've made them early, and we don't have any ability to really defend
What was the
against
choice,
that.
though? What was the choice? They weren't going to let us go. We wouldn't have been able to finish the job.
Sure they were.
What?
So Omen starts crunching her fists again. You want to argue
I don't want to
this?
argue this. I just want to understand, like, if we're going to do these sorts of jobs, we're going to make enemies. And, like, when you deal with the corpse, they're not going to walk away.
So we should go out of our way to do that.
What?
So we should go out of our way to do that.
But they weren't going to let us walk away.
Which is what we did. I wasn't walking away. I was driving away.
Without the truck. Without the black box.
They weren't going to be able to take it. Sure, taking out the helicopter. Great idea. No argument there. What are they going to do when that was gone?
Well, then we still would have left enemies behind.
How are they going to...
Okay, let me ask you this.
We've got enemies right now and worse ones.
How would you have resolved it?
Driven away. Quickly. It's how that works.
I don't know that would have worked.
Well, then I guess we have a difference of
right,
opinion. You leave bodies, you leave debts, and we have a big one now.
That seems like a great cutscene.
Yep.
So, meanwhile, back at the forest, not at the forest, at the fire. How's Atlas feeling after all of this, right? Like, and what did he do with the random piece of metal that he pulled out of his body? Like, is he putting it on a chain? Did he just toss it over his shoulder? Like, does he have a collection of these things?
No, like I basically took it and I'm just like, as I'm laying on the bed, like just healing and everything, I'm just staring at it and kind of like twirling it around in my fingers, thinking about how I am going to make a necklace out of this. Like, this is a pretty cool, like, little badge of honor and a good reminder of everything that we went through. So, thinking back on that, though, so I guess how much can I push it before I'm pushing it? Like, am I able to, like, get up and walk around and look at the cyberware stuff? And
oh, yeah, I think so. I mean, I think the key thing is if you're actively... if there were a firefight to go down, or if you decided you were going to go out and about in the city and like go, heavy drinking or something like that, I think that's where you start pushing it and you're not recovering. But, if you're just like walking around the camp, taking things in. And I guess the other thing is like, so what is Atlas's take on Omen storming away? Is he just like oblivious to it? He's like, well, this was a great job. I got to blow stuff up and everything's fine.
No, I took some shrapnel. That was a little too close for comfort. So I get where she's a little upset too. And I think it's more, I really wish that went down a little bit better, and I'm also kind of regretting not taking that $10,000. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't know how sincere that $10,000 or 10,000 ED offer was, and it may have just been to get us close enough where they could just cap us in the head easier. So, so I guess in a certain respect, I need to get something where I can see better now. So I'm kind of looking over the cyber eye stuff that they've got there.
So I'd say that they don't have a ripper dock here. What they would have is like just more standard gear, right? So if you wanted a new gun, specialized ammo, random hard drives lying around, like that kind of stuff, but not. I mean, you'd have to go to. They don't have a ripper dock in Residence.
Makes sense. So yeah, I'm just kind of glancing over. That's probably what I'm looking. I'm looking for something like that, but just not finding it.
Yeah, so it's not like Rocket Raccoon's collection of like randomly pulled cyberware.
Yeah. But to be fair, I doubt Atlas has ever been in a nomad camp before. So
this is true, and there may be something like I'm sure there's nomad camps where they do have a ripper dock in staff, but this is more like your forward camp. Like,
yeah.
The random crap that they've managed to salvage or trade for.
Typical.
So there's like scopes, right? That kind of like, if you were looking for some add-ons to your weapons, which I'm not even totally aware of what's available.
Yeah.
They probably have a scope or something like that.
See if there's like some attachments for the assault rifle that I've got and stuff like that to make it a little bit more deadly. I didn't even think about that.
So while that's happening, so things can just kind of like continue to happen fluidly. Are there any other major like role playing confrontations that you would expect to happen on this particular day?
Not on day one, no. Day one, I'm mostly just if I'm walking around for like 5-10 minutes looking at what they got, and then I'm going back and just laying down and falling asleep.
So the next day, So night passes. You continue to hear the whir and like gleeful exclamations from the nomads as Wrench is just so excited about tearing things apart. The next day, there's you check your. So who among your characters is in the habit of checking the scream sheets?
Definitely Angry Bob.
What are scream sheets?
So scream sheets are like the equivalent of like newspapers in 2045.
And remember,
okay.
as a media, I get rumors.
Okay,
and
cool.
That's under your control.
So
I believe.
Oh, is it? Okay, I'll have to look that up. So, okay. So in the land of the scream sheet first. So there's two big stories that dominate things, and so like the scream sheets are like, I imagine there's not like one monolithic scream sheet. Like there's a whole bunch of like individual ones that you could follow. They're more like collections of like news feeds and stuff like that. So I'm imagining that Angry Bob is like has the mix of like not front page news, but like one step lower, right? Like the happenings amongst the edgerunners, and like you're trying to get a sense for like what pops
right
out of the background static that is Night City. And there's a story there. Self-driving semi stolen. Stormhold claims machine is on extended shakedown cruise in a daring midday edgerunner attack on Old State Highway 101. A daring midday edgerunner attack on Old State Highway 101 led to the loss of Stormhold Transport's Titan X1 prototype. According to confidential informants, the prototype was lost near the Iron Oasis intersection of State Route 101 and County Road 13.
Bob starts cursing loudly, by the way. Halfway through this was his scoop.
Well, we'll get to that in one quick sec. So, because I should have asked you another question beforehand. So, it might have actually been filed by you, right?
Okay.
The anonymous source says it was the Nomads. Obviously, they don't want anyone cutting into their territory. Stormhold denies the claim and says that the Titan X1, set for release in Q4, is on an extended shakedown cruise, and the alleged incident was a misunderstood weapons test.
Nice.
The other notable headline and there's a lot of like spin-offs and speculation and sort of like the equivalent of blog posts and podcasts, just like the city is abuzz with this, is the Thruster Blade Rumble annual tournament ramping up. Get ready for racing mayhem as the Thruster Blade Rumble returns. The citywide tournament, sponsored by Malorian Arms, kicks off Monday and runs at locations throughout Night City, culminating at the end of the month with the championship races at McCarthy Stadium. Would you like to know more? So those are the kind of so the first thing is more of so what did I meant to ask this before I got into the scream sheet, but what did Angry Bob do? Like, what stories did he file? Like, did he tip somebody else off and provide some of this stuff? Like, did he go out and like pull together these sources? Is this his story, or is he posting his own thing off to the side?
I mean, that was like, we didn't get to it yet, but like the part, there's like the two things that you could do. You could do like a little mini downtime run, or you could earn money as a media. And so like, he's filing the story and filing all the serial numbers of who was involved off. Like it was a big thing in terms of it was a, obviously there was a big firefight. There was the thing came down. The air car came down.
AeroCop.
And so, he's filing a story as he's treading the line between giving lots of detail and yet not enough detail to identify anybody involved other than the corpse.
So what I'm kind of imagining is, because you have your own channel and your own feed, but you're not like citywide,
right?
Like you don't have that big of a following.
He'll still file as like a freelance reporter where he can. Like I think that's how he keeps himself in kibble. Is just
gotcha.
Like while he's faking it till he's making it, he's doing all the freelance stuff to just earn money to feed himself and put a roof over his head.
Right. So we'll look at the specific downtime for this. But so what I'm imagining is you filed the thing to your couple hundred followers with the serial numbers filed off. It got picked up by some other media that then amplified it, and then it ended up in the scream sheet. Like you're 2 or 3 sources removed because you're not that big of a name yet,
right?
And you didn't specifically go out with like if you had done a live stream of this and interviewing all of your people as you're going, it might have broken big, but you chose not to do that. Right?
Well, I mean, he's got all the recordings and then they got all messed up. So,
right. So the story is out there. But this wasn't your story. This was like 2 steps removed from your story. So We'll figure out how much. So, but presumably they pay you some amount of Eurobucks for picking up on the lead or what have you, right? Like maybe you were able to you had a little bit of salvaged video from the firefight that you were able to sell, like just a shaky 20-second clip, right, of the rocket slamming into the AeroCop.
Hopefully that, yeah. Hopefully the rocket slamming in, that'll be worth a few bucks.
Okay, so APT, you get. So I'm assuming that APT is kind of because you have your fixer. You have I'm assuming you kind of have your finger on the pulse of the various
APT is always
bulletin boards.
APT is one of those people that's always looking for work.
Yeah, so there's some ping. There's a ping that pops up, which you have never seen before. You kind of you set it up as one of those news alerts that you were watching for, but you didn't ever expect that it would come up, and so they there is it pops that you. I put my notes here. Your names pop up and associated with a bounty by an unnamed individual. It shows up on the bounty board.
Don't tell Roman. Just pointing his finger at us.
How much are they asking for us?
Oh no!
So
Don't do it, APT.
hold on. 500 EBs each.
Oh, that's it.
Seems pretty standard.
Yeah.
For information leading to the location of, and then, additional
I'm
funds.
surprised Atlas doesn't have a little bit higher.
Yeah, well, I was just so that was just for information leading to the location thereof. Contact for additional information related to live capture and what have you.
Well then, over breakfast, she will try to draw everybody over. And over coffee, she will casually mention that we have bounties out on us. They're not large, but they're large enough to gather some interest.
And I would say that they don't know the specifics of everything, but I think Izzy knows who Atlas is because they had a moment, if I remember correctly. So
yes, they did.
I think the bounty is the bounty is for more information about an edge running crew led by Atlas.
Right.
Nice. So he is.
No, that's great. That's awesome. Yeah. So, but when I get to the end of my very soft-spoken little announcement, I look at Atlas and say, "What should we do, glorious leader?"
And there's descriptions of the other edge runners who were in, because I think they would have been able to catch glimpses of all of you at one point or another. But Atlas is the one that they had the most information on, that they were able to say, yeah, this is the guy.
Yep.
And they don't have necessarily the known associates for everyone else.
Well, this seems like an appropriate time because I know we were moving Atlas towards a new name. So
I just love how
Omen
Omen is just completely unable to handle the fact that there's a bounty on her. I think that's hysterical. It's like, God, what are you, new? Did you not expect this? I don't understand. APTU is incredibly blasé about this, by the way. It's hard to, she shows no emotion as she talks about this. She just is like, this is just a thing that happens.
Bob.
So Omen isn't like fly off the handle anymore. She's worked this out a little bit. It did get them the truck a little bit easier. Hanging out with the nomads has helped. It's mollified the anger, and maybe she had some like heart to heart with somebody who's a little bit more senior than her. But since we're moving Atlas to that new name, now we're just fried chicken, shake and bake.
Angry Bob looks a little excited at the news that there's a bounty after them, because in his mind, there's some fame that goes along with that, which is notoriety, which may mean that people start picking up on his articles and video. So.
Yeah, that could be your edge runner crew, fried chicken.
Fried chicken.
That's a crew name. All right. So this news is shared with everybody else. It's not necessarily a bad thing to have a reputation, right? So, So how does the rumors thing work, David? For your,
it's called credibility. Medias are deeply plugged into information networks. Assuming you aren't entirely off grid, at least twice per week, the GM will secretly roll your credibility rank, credibility rank and a D10. My credibility rank, I believe, is 4. Yes. Credibility rank is 4, so D10 plus 4. If the check beats any of the DVs on the rumor table's passive column, the GM will clue the media in on the highest DV rumor, which which their check beats. These are the same rumors that a media will find by hitting the street during gameplay using their relevant information gathering skills like library search, conversation, or interrogation.
So is there a rumors table that I'm
151.
using, or is this I need to 151? Okay,
And so it goes from vague, typical, substantial to detailed rumor. When a media is actively looking for a rumor, they roll stat plus skill plus D10, which I'm not actively looking for a rumor right now.
Okay. So you did not pick up any rumors.
Okay.
I guess I would just tell you that if you did, not that you didn't. But either way, you don't pick up on a rumor. Like,
Right.
So
No
more or
new
less,
info
like,
comes to me other than the scream sheets.
So the bounty does not so far, like, you know. So I guess, you know, the bounties are out there. It is a thing that known. It might cause you a little bit of interest as you get into the city. I think it would be a function of, like, you know, other edge runners might look at it as a little bit like they look at Atlas a little bit more, you know, you've got some standing now, but, you know, it's only 500. You know, they're not going to necessarily go and turn you in, right? As opposed to there could be certain corpo related hounders are like, yeah, this is what we do. They're just like, you know, it's bounty hunter, Dog the bounty hunter, right? Like, he goes out looking for you, and they're just like, yeah, you know, 500 still pays, you know, it's going to buy you some kibble and, you know, some cheap beer. So you might have a couple people who are looking for you. So is the intention to stay here for the 3 days it takes for Atlas to recover?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Omen's happiest
They gotta
here.
stay with their fearless leader.
So there are no other notable developments that happen during that time. So you do know from the scream sheets, like, there's other things that are happening as the days go by. It is sort of just cloudy with a chance of rain as you start contemplating heading back into Night City. The city is abuzz with just the way that the Turbo Blade tournaments are going to be happening, which are actually, so this Turbo Blade tournament, it's they actually have rocket blades. So if you imagine Battle Angel Alita, if you guys have seen this, like, there's a huge stadium, and basically you have people who are jacked up on cybernetics and who are competing with one another. So it's the Fast and the Furious meets Cyberpunk, and there's street races. There's basically, like, prescribed street races happening throughout Night City. Probably not in the super rich areas, but maybe, right? Like, they might have just like the equivalent of like a street stadium set up, right? But it's really nice and plush. But basically, it goes from dark and gritty, like in the worst slums of Night City, to, you know, wherever. You've got all these, like, sort of mini tournaments happening where people with rocket blades are competing both individually and as teams for the notoriety of being able to go to McCartney Stadium for the big showdown at the end of the month. And so these kind of, like, micro events are popping up all over the city. As you know, APT will make contact with Athena, who points you to a parking garage in Night City where you can meet up for the exchange.
Right.
While we were still in the Nomad camp, was I able to find a sniping scope and some incendiary ammo?
How much does a sniping scope go for?
100, and 100 for the ammo too. That's what I was like.
Easily.
200 would be fine. Yeah. All right, cool.
Yeah, and if Bob could, what was it? Oh shoot, I should have written that down. Bob was going to see if he could pick up a couple of things as well from the Nomads. A med tech bag. Probably a handful of memory chips. Where was it? What is that? Nope, that's not what I wanted. Do I have that? Sorry.
Well, David's looking for stuff.
Sorry. Go. I'll let you know in a minute. Go ahead.
Okay. Aaron, was there anything you were looking to pick up in camp?
I picked up some light armor jack, which is 100, and a grappling gun. I mean, I kind of already had a grappling gun from like the.
You may already have light armor jack too.
Planning session. Oh, do I? Okay. So I have to kind of look again, I guess.
Okay.
I don't really find a whole lot that I like in the equipment section.
Are you in page the 300s? Page 300? Okay.
Yes. 351.
Yep. Oh, clothing. I don't know where clothing is. That's what I was going to get.
Clothing is page 356.
Clothing's expensive. Wow.
And if I guess, Aaron, if there's something you're looking for that you're not seeing in the equipment lists, let me know, because we have black chrome, and I got the Danger Gal dossier, which also has some additional equipment that, if we don't know where it is. The other thing is, like, for future reference, like, the camp might not have it because we haven't figured out where we can find it from a game rules perspective.
That's
but
cool.
There's a lot of 2020 supplements out there that I bet you there's almost something for anything.
I would tell you that it is like climbing shoes and climbing gloves, because Nomad likes to death from above and that sort of thing. She likes to scale buildings, which you've discovered.
Indeed, in our session 0.
Everybody likes to break in. I'm just going to go climb up on top.
All right. Well, we can look for stats for those. And I looked through Black Chrome, but I didn't get super into looking through it. So we can follow up on that one later. David, do you know what you want?
I was looking up. You know what? I will pick up a Nomad leather jacket, but I'm going to end up paying 50 of my own money to help pay for that.
Okay.
So he's got so picked up a med tech bag, 5 memory chips, and a Nomad leather jacket. So, he needs to blend in different places, different times.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Anybody else doing anything while you remain in the Nomad camp?
No, sir.
Bob's going to talk to people. I mean, he doesn't always make people angry. He's just going to get to know people.
That remains to be seen.
We'll find out. Let's just, he's got some decent social skills.
Yeah.
Yeah. So why don't you go ahead and roll one of those? What are you trying to do too?
Just to get to know people,
making friends,
talk to people.
Okay.
Maybe make some contacts. I rolled persuasion,
right.
Or I could roll conversation, which is not as good.
I would say conversation. Conversation too.
Why?
This is more of like.
That's not so bad. I got a 16.
16's not too bad. So I think they're put off by the media. Like your request was like such a faux pas, right? That like it just throws everybody for a loop. But by the third day of like hanging out and drinking and like
not pulling the camera out, or shoving a microphone,
not pulling the
in
camera
face.
out, and sort of like the news of the corpos, right? Like putting a bounty on you. Like it wasn't connected directly back to Zetatech, but the idea that there is actually now a bounty, like it's not a huge bounty, so they're not particularly concerned that someone's going to be showing up in the Nomad camp that you've drawn danger to them. Like if it was 10,000 apiece, they'd be like, yeah, you should be moving along. But all of this kind of comes together that you have a little bit more edge than you seem to. Like you just seem like an over enthusiastic news hound when you showed up in camp. Was their take on it. And so you chat with a couple of right. After a few beers and a few smokes, like they don't want to talk about like their personal lives per se, but they'll want to talk about cool things they've had. Other like I think logically it goes to other things that they have found and taken apart.
Gotcha.
And like, you know, there's inevitably sort of like the sort. I'll go back to the Fast and Furious. Like you've gotten to the scene where family is hanging out, you're having a bunch of Coronas, and you're talking about like all those different jobs you've done over time. So, you know, they don't necessarily give you your calling cards, but you now have a better insight into nomad culture. And you know, if you were to hook up with these nomads again, they wouldn't be unhappy to see you.
Cool.
Aw, you're making friends.
I tried.
And I think both Razorhawk and Wrench would be like, you know, they're kind of like the leaders for this group. One hand's like the Razorhawk's like the person who's running point, and Wrench is the person who's kind of handling the techs on the back end. And so I think in terms of contacts, those would be people whom you would be able to reach out to if you needed to.
Okay. What was it? Razorhawk and Wrench. Okay. There we go.
And Razorhawk just kind of gives you like all of the ways that you are a media dumbass. That's
Sure.
like her contribution. Like Wrench is like, you know, he's telling you stories, slamming back the Coronas, like, you know, yeah, this is fantastic. Meanwhile, Razorhawk is like looking at you like you're going to get yourself killed if you wander into additional nomad camps pointing cameras around. And so she proceeds to like just kind of like, it's in a somewhat affectionate way by the end.
I just would love to hear her open this with it. You know what your problem is?
Yeah.
You're a dumbass.
It's like, well, it's good to be self-aware, you know. I've been called worse, so.
I would like to explain to you, you are a dumbass.
APT will, she's pretty quiet, but she'll sit around the fire with people. She does a lot of listening. She'll chime in occasionally. It would come out that she comes from a European nomad clan.
Oh, okay.
That is her background. She doesn't go into details about why she left or what happened, but, you know, she'll say something like, oh, this reminds me of this thing in France or blah, blah, blah. And, but she's not actively trying to make contacts or anything, but it's almost like she's trying to not be antisocial. You know what I mean?
Right.
Her inclination would be to go to sit in a corner and tinker on her deck, but.
Right. And I think that buys you a little, like, you know, I think nomads are like, you know, they would see you with respect, but also some confusion as to why anybody would leave the clan. And,
right.
You know, probably don't poke too much, but like look at you with some additional respect. Not quite, you know, it's trying to just think through the nomad storyline in 2077, right? Like,
well, right, exactly. And, you know, so I'm sure there's both curiosity, respect, maybe a little bit of wariness, but not a whole lot, but something that makes her more human to people instead of just sitting in the corner tinkering on her deck.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So time passes. They give you a vehicle not as cool as the one that you had, but nondiscrete. Serial numbers filed off to get back into the city. They give Nomad a place where she can drop it off with a contact. And so you're able to get to the meetup with Athena, and I'm gonna move our screen over to the parking deck here.
Excellent.
And I have to move me over to the parking deck too.
On the ride there, APT is going to bring up, we should be prepared for a double cross. It kind of out of nowhere. It's like she's been processing the whole time. And she's like, we should be prepared. That's all I'm saying. I don't know anything, but.
I mean,
that's kind of why I upgraded my gun before I upgraded anything else. So
you arrive at the parking deck.
You know what? At at some point, just so it's said, Omen's respect for APT is like growing measurably over this time. So at some point during the ride, when things get like, during some sort of point when they get out of the car and all that shuffling around, Omen says APT is shotgun.
APT knows what this means to a nomad, so she will happily take shotgun.
Bob is crammed in next to Shake and Bake with a rocket launcher and an assault rifle. Just kind of
Knees up, neat.
Sticking in his cheek.
He's got the big camera too, because this is, they're not small. So he's got like that, Hey, maybe we should drop off Shake and Bake a little ways away so that he can get a drop on anybody if they're going to try and get a drop on us.
So I have to ask. So you're kind of crammed into this like mini, right? Because your Aaron's like Omen's default ride is not a particularly like great ride, correct?
Luxurious car.
It's like a subcompact.
So, right. So it is awkward. Like the rocket launcher is the rocket launcher like probably has to like point like you've popped out the back window and put it in the trunk so the rocket launcher. I was going to say
the rocket launcher has no ammo anyway. I probably just shoved it in the trunk.
I don't think it's big enough to like. I'm just thinking this is like a subcompact. Like the problem is you can't put it in the trunk.
So it's like when you go in a small car and you go to the lumber store and you need something, or you go get something from a store that's just too long. It's like shoved in the trunk, but it's like hanging out between
right. There's the orange tape off the back to indicate.
Yeah, between like Angry Bob and Shake and Bake, it's just like sticking out between them. They have to kind of like duck underneath it to talk.
So I want to know what happens with it. I imagine there are momentary, like with any time you're on like a long ride with like 4 people, right? Like you guys are chit chatting, things are maybe a little bit awkward, but then there's that silence that comes. And what I want to know is, does the what happens with kind of like this unspoken anger that is out there with how the job went down and the rocket launchering of the Zeta, like that whole situation? Like, does it go unsaid, or is a moment on the drive where it comes to a head?
There's some respect that Omen also has for now Shake and Bake. He protected the group. So there's some loyalty she has. She's keeping it stifled. Being dramatic is not very good in getting all obsessed in your feelings is not always the best way to,
I think,
run things. So I think it goes unsaid.
I think APT would, while riding shotgun, just look over at Omen and do the, "You good?" And, give her the opening, but, just the very quiet, "You good?"
We got a job to do.
I
don't screw up the job.
We do.
Although that was said probably a little bit more acidic.
APT would grin at this and go back to tinkering. Just enough of a chuckle that Omen knows that she gets it.
So does Atlas like do anything? Like clearly there's some residual tension, but I don't know that it's actually a thing you would act on. So you do you.
I don't know.
Does Atlas notice?
I think so because outside of like the exterior, like I've got several guns on me at any point of time. He's also like this like goofy, like always kind of like got a like grin on his face kind of guy. So he's probably like just watching and seeing like the I guess the tension, and he'll probably be like, "So think we could get through this part of it without me getting another slug stuck in me?" Fireworks were nice, but I didn't like much that happened after that.
Now Owen's practicing some controlled breathing.
And
Was that meant like self-deprecating from Atlas?
Yeah,
Like,
a little bit.
as abrasive as Bob is, he actually cares about people. So, he'll kind of duck underneath the rocket launcher to be able to look at Shake and Bake. And it's like, I think you were probably right with what you did, but I think we need to have a longer talk after this whole thing's over about like giving people signals, and I think we're good, but not everybody agrees with how that thing went down.
Oh, I thought seeing the jet was the signal.
That's why I think we need to just have a sit down, nice dinner, maybe some beers, and sit down and talk. And, this is our first run together. So I think we need to like figure out how to communicate a little bit better.
APT pimps up with maybe some code words.
Yeah.
All right, so you arrive at so you approach. So how are you? So Omen, are you dropping off the vehicle at like the drop off point for the nomads, and then you guys are, because presumably your own vehicle is stashed somewhere else, and then you guys huffing it to the. How are you approaching the parking garage?
Well, as Bob was suggesting, he was saying, let's drop off Shake and Bake earlier, so that he can get some, because this is a parking garage. Do we know what it looks like?
Yeah, it's like a multi-deck parking garage.
So are the sides open?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I would think so. I'm thinking like traditional parking garage.
Like if we could,
this map probably does not do it complete justice.
Sure.
But let's assume sight lines and what have you. But they're also not dumb, right? So that whatever they're doing, they probably you would be able to like cover the crew, I think, if you were able, but you would probably have to, I think the nature of the parking garages would be that, and what they would pick is that there are probably sight lines in, but they would likely have picked it in such a place that there are strategically placed supports and or cars.
Mm-hmm. Like, if we could get, like, I know that when we're in there, Shake and Bake may not be able to get a sight line on us, but if a firefight were to break out, we could get out of the cover so that they might get drawn out. And so the idea would be, and talking with the rest of you, it's like, hey, we should, he does a good job from long range. So, did you think you should all? I think we should place him there as a backup.
I agree. We have him up top. Perhaps Omen and I take the stuff in, and Bob, you film everything.
You don't want me to negotiate again?
So is Angry Bob going to like take up a position next to Atlas to film from afar, or?
No, I think he's going to go in with them.
Okay.
Because I mean the makers, we've already met the makers. They know he's a media. They know he's already talked to them. I believe he's talked to them about wanting to do this documentary thing. So, he'll blur faces as needed. But
gotcha.
This is about edge running.
Yes.
You can't film edge running from a block away.
Gotcha. Okay.
The guy that we're moving
with dramatic voice.
It doesn't sell well. Yeah. What we're looking at here, it'd be like a David Attenborough edge running documentary. It's like
observe the edge runners as they try not to get ambushed.
The guy that we're meeting, is that the guy that we met in the diner that was basically filed off the serial numbers on the guns, or is it our main guy that we saved from being torn apart by that one gang?
Your meeting. So when you met before, the people whom were part of that initial contact were. Give me one quick sec, because
there were two makers. at the diner that we met before. And I think APT, you were saying that we were meeting your fixer. Or
No.
We got the job through my fixer. We are meeting Athena, who is our contact with the makers.
Okay, right.
So in the initial contact, you had met with Daedalus,
Right.
and you had met with he had two other individuals who were there with him, Gabanus and Athena. The Gabanus looked like he might have been the older man's son. So Daedalus was kind of like the grizzled leather vest wearing like maker. Gabanus was a younger guy who, he had the wooden handle of a shotgun protruding above one shoulder, or what have you. And then Athena was wearing a chain shirt, obviously handcrafted, long sleeve purple shirt, strategically cut to expose the chain underneath, right? And two vintage 9mm pistols on her hips. So she looked like she was like the person who goes out and does the meet and greet. So you're not surprised that Athena is the person whom you would be meeting with.
Gotcha.
Cool. So you go into the parking garage.
Who's carrying the box? Okay.
I'll do it.
All right, I'll see if I can find a good post to take up where I can kind of oversee everybody's movement. Preferably next to their guy that's probably doing the same thing.
Across the way, right? Just kind of like nod to each other. It happens at night. So you can hear in the background the high pitched squeals of the rocket blade race happening a couple blocks over, right? Mm-hmm. And there's kind of the random cheers that go off. There's like the music, heavy music playing, like just echoing off the buildings of Night City. The city feels more vibrant in a like collective sort of way than it has in weeks. Like there's just this energy that is going down in Night City. It's kind of, there aren't a lot of things that bring the people of Night City together, but the Razor Blade races may be one of them. Or they are definitely one of them. So you meet up, and this isn't a surprise. Athena would have communicated this previously, that Gabanus would be with her for the meet because she's not going to come by herself. Right. And as you might, but they don't bring a whole crew of people with them either, right? They are discreet. They come out from one of the vehicles. There's an unmarked van that they will step out of, and Athena approaches
as this is happening, showing how little Bob has actually been on runs before. He's going to actually open a call from his agent over to Shake and Bake so that we can have an open line of communication.
Yeah, and for all the talk of keywords and what have you, code words, there isn't one.
We haven't made any other than not bombshell. So
I'm basically waiting for you to say bombshell or not bombshell. As soon as I hear the word bombshell, I'm like,
things are way off the rails if somebody says bombshell.
So, yeah, I guess we approach and APT will raise a hand in greeting and gesture at the box.
Athena smiles as she sees the box approach. Sees the box, says, "You've done very well. Impressive."
Thank you. We've disabled all the trackers. Should be clean and ready for you.
So, how badly did you hurt Zetatech?
Well, they put a price out on us, so I imagine enough.
And she just kind of like chuckles a bit at that. Yes, we'd seen the bounty pop up on your friend Atlas. Has he gone to ground?
She gestures behind us. He's up on a building somewhere. It's his way.
Appreciative.
You know how it is.
Indeed. She kind of looks to Gabanus and says, well, we have our work cut out for us. And so I'm guessing, so would it be a wire transfer for the money, or would she give you like physical EBs?
I don't know if they do the gesture thing like in 2077 or, I mean, it's digital in some fashion. Right. So probably wire transfer.
Yeah, so she just kind of like makes the standard motion for wire transfer as you hand the black box over to her. It was excellent working with you. It's even more excellent that you were able to draw the ire of the corpos. They're all such bastards.
They're down a truck.
They are.
Sorry?
They're down a truck. It's being taken apart.
Even better. So she's just kind of smart. So Gabanis comes over. He takes the black box, loads it into the van, and Athena just looks to you and says, "This was an excellent opportunity for us to get to know one another, and I think there's going to be other opportunities down the road where we'll want to come back to you. We're always looking for opportunities to stick it to the corpos and to liberate technology so that it can be used by all."
APT nods and smiles and says, "It's been a pleasure doing business. Keep us in mind. Look forward to hearing from you."
Little free advice. They really don't like you. They offered us 10,000 EVs apiece to sell you out.
Huh.
So you might want to keep your head down for a little while.
That is fascinating. They've been trying to infiltrate for quite some time, but it seems like they've really upped their budget. Thanks for the information.
Yep.
It's appreciated. And so there's no ambush.
No, that's good. Well, once they leave, I imagine we head back to our vehicle.
Bob gives kind of a resigned sigh. He was hoping for some action because that would have sold the story a little bit. But it's also good just to have the money.
APT leans in and says, "I could shoot you in the leg if you want."
Nah.
No one would ever know.
No. I mean, I got to catch it on camera. Otherwise, it just doesn't sell. And no, I don't need to be shot on camera by you.
APT just laughs.
I'm a little confused. I'm only getting half of this conversation.
Yeah.
Do you want me to shoot you in the leg?
No, shake and bake. I do not want to be shot in the leg.
Oh, okay.
No, everything went fine.
All right, so there's some.
How are you?
So there's interesting things. This did not actually come up in character creation because it may be referenced in the book and I just didn't see it. But Cyberpunk RED has this idea of playstyle based improvement. So this morning I sat down and said, I should probably figure out what experience points are in this game. Yep. There's not experience points. It is improvement points, and you're supposed to give improvement points for how well the how well the job went. But then each of you is also supposed to come up with your play style. So if you looked at page 409, because you get rewarded for your play style, and it isn't necessarily associated with your character's role in terms of class, like whether you're a net runner or you're a solo or what have you. And so they sum it as the types of characters or the type of players are. So there's warriors, which are combat-oriented players who like to engage in tests of skill against adversaries. They want to build the strongest fighter in the group as well as have the best weapons or combat abilities. The socializers are the social-oriented players who are all about overall game experience. They like to tell jokes, record stories, and contribute in ways that are not directly within the game. In and out of the game, they tend to take a supportive role. Explorer-oriented players like to find new things in the world. They like to make friends and alliances and find places and experience new things. They also love to solve non-combat related puzzles and mysteries. Role-play-oriented players like to concentrate on playing their character as accurately to type as possible. They enjoy constructing elaborate backgrounds for the character, often including personal props, pictures, and even special diaries. They enjoy acting out important scenes with speeches or elaborate descriptions. And so then there's this section like, what type of player am I? And so there is a grid here, like 4 boxes that kind of are associated with warrior, explorers, role players, and socializers. And so the idea is that players take a small quiz after they finish player creation. We're a little late,
yep.
Which helps the player and the GM determine what playstyle best approximates their type. In the boxes below, the player should choose 5 things they find the most important while playing. The box with the most circles is their primary play style. The box with the second most circles is their secondary play style. And so we don't necessarily have to go through this right now. It could be, because I don't know how we would accurately stream it, but it does actually go to XP, because the idea is like, if you have, if your primary, if you go to page 410, it then relates to your character, right? So if your primary role had been, say, warrior, then you would have gotten IP for used combat skills often, even if not to exceptional effect. And then you get more points for like how well you did that, right? So there's basically a rubric that you're grading yourself on, that we're grading you on based on how effective your character was within your own playstyle. So if you're a role player, then you would try and stress your role playing, and then you would get more points for that, right? And so when I go to actually award things, let's see. After each game session, the GM awards all players improvement points based on how successful they were in their mission. If the mission was finished successfully or unsuccessfully, the players gain improvement points based on their group success, taking the value from the group column, which is on page 410. Unless they did something that the GM considers stands out from the other playstyles that would award them more points. If you didn't finish the mission, you get IP based on your primary or secondary playstyle, unless you did something that we think would stand out that would award them more points. So, for instance, if Bob Jones is a warrior type and he manages to defeat all of the dreaded Team X by luring them into a crossfire trap, that would fall under the very effective or clever use of combat skills, defeating several opponents in unexpected or unusual ways category. So Bob would get 50 IP for that feat. So I think the idea is you're supposed to get like the base level IP, which I think
there's group IP.
If you look at the group, the group IP is the first column. You accomplish most of the, group accomplished most of the mission goals well, showing strong cooperative skills. And then, so that's worth 40 points. 50 points is group accomplished most of the mission goals extremely well with a few stellar moments. The very best you can do at 80 IP is the group's mission was legendary, accomplishing all mission goals set forth and also all side goals. You showed exceptional cooperation and teamwork. So
that's not
my
us.
thought on.
I think we did strong cooperation and teamwork, but
Yeah, I was thinking it was 40 was probably.
I was thinking
the
70,
40 tier. 70.
I mean, we did succeed. We got
success.
everything done. We were strong cooperation and teamwork. Like even when things were blowing up, we did not.
No, I think sulking for 3 days over the outcome.
That was downtime.
I would put that as part of the group's mission and the fallout from the mission. So that is not teamwork. That shows that we had a lack of teamwork in a particular instance.
But high on the role playing.
Yeah.
But I think that's where this is where this is where the matrix is kind of important.
Right.
So we may want to we could also take like a 5-minute break, 10-minute break, and everybody can kind of look at this chart and kind of come up with what their play styles are real quick, and then we could talk through that as to like how we should award the play style points.
I didn't even know there was a 60, 70, 80 on the other page, so I thought it just went to 50. So anything above that is just gravy for me.
Yeah, why don't we take 5 minutes for that and anything else that needs to happen?
Sounds good.
And we can come back.
Yep.
All right, so back to returning from our break. We're talking about the steps that we skipped, which was basically figuring out play styles. So this isn't actually your character style. This is your individual person style, and then you get XP based on this. So Chris, during the break, had mentioned that he came up as a primary role player and a secondary socializer. Who would like to go next?
I can. I've got a Aaron. You're on mute, by the way, just in case you needed to unmute. I spent my 5 things in 3 different areas, so I have a tie. But okay. I would say primary role player, secondary explorer.
Okay.
because I like to meet new people and contribute to the history of the world on the explorer side, and in general role play with a couple of things circled on. I could have circled more on the role play side, which is why I listed it.
Gotcha. Okay.
I would say primarily a warrior, secondary role player. But like I was saying, a lot of the role play stuff for Atlas is probably like more home life, kind of like outside of a mission type of thing.
Right.
We haven't really done too much of that. So, but yeah, secondary probably role play.
Okay. And Aaron?
I would say primary role player. And I'm kind of split between explorer and socializer, but I'll go with explorer a little bit more.
Okay. I think this is an interesting concept because when you're writing the adventure, then like you can play to the things that people are actually interested in doing, which is not a thing I've seen in a lot of other RPGs, actually. Given how crunchy the rest of the system is.
Yeah, it seems almost like it's enhancement from the old Vampire World of Darkness, where you have like 2 words. I can't remember it, even though I have the book over there. But like what's your drive and what's your something else, and it's like you put a 1-word answer, and then you get experience based on if you role played that or not.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Aaron?
I was agreeing with you. I think it's
I feel like
one of the most interesting experience point or improvement point systems I've seen.
Yeah. I feel like having role player as one of the things is a little weird, though, just because would you be playing this if you didn't enjoy playing role playing?
This could easily be as much a strategy or a mini game as it could be I've played with a lot of people. Now, I'm primarily a role player. I got introduced to it when I was 16 and fell in love because I was in the drama program, and it was great. But not everybody plays that way, and it baffles me. But not everybody is in it for that aspect of let's pretend,
right? I mean, the old school rules. The OSR movement that's been going on for more than a decade is like, hey, let's go back to the old rules where chainmail, original red box, that sort of thing, and play it like it was supposed to be played, which is a nebulous concept there. But the idea was a lot of more on the combat side and more on the characters will die fairly often, so you don't necessarily get super attached to them. And honestly, Cyberpunk RED does now have a minis game that you can play. They were showing it off at Gen Con and recreated the Cyberpunk 2077 dock scene with
oh wow!
They had cargo containers. They had a big dock. They had a ship with cranes and all that kind of stuff. Most of it was printed with 3D printed, but you couldn't really tell from a distance. Like, it was really well put together.
Yeah.
So bringing us back to the challenge at hand. So the other thing that we talked a little bit about during the break was like the cost of jumping up to the next level, right? So for example, for a typical skill improvement to jump from a 6 to a 7, what was your skill that you were giving as an example, David?
Like persuasion.
Okay, so to go persuasion from a 6 to a 7 would cost 140 IPs.
Yep.
So so if we're looking at like, will this run cost you yielded you say 40 base for the group? You accomplished most of the mission well, showing off strong cooperative skills, and I think you guys mostly did. I don't know that it went extremely well with a few stellar moments, which gets you up to a 50. But with a base of 40 plus maybe some individual IP rewards, you're only going to be at like maybe half of what you need to improve that up. And so I think one of the questions I have for the group is like, this is a shorter term run, although Chris and I were excited about playing more. Like, do we want to multiply? Do we want to add a multiplier so that you can actually advance? Because at this rate, you would go on like 3 missions before you would have enough IP to be able to do a thing. Whereas, like, you know, in Blades in the Dark, or actually, I guess in Scum and Villainy, when we did that, I think everybody was leveling up every 2 sessions, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think I'd be okay with doubling it.
Yeah, I mean, the question is like if we do another few sessions and we're then pretty darn powerful, or would people be willing to switch to a new character, and then maybe we either keep the same progression or slow down the progression for a longer term campaign if we wanted to do that. So
yeah, I think you could drop gears, but I don't know. Even at doubling it, I don't know that you're going to get to that would just allow you to get to a 7.
Yeah.
A little faster
in 2 sessions instead of like 3.
Yeah, that's true. Very true. Yeah, for me to go for anybody to go from, because we all start at rank 4 for your roll ability, to go from a rank 4 to a rank 5 is 300. So, you know, that's quite a bit of IP. That's at least 2 6 to 7 improvements. So, yeah.
Right, because we could also do like ×3 for the group effort, like as a way of, we want to just see what it looks like to level up a character.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with that, you know, if everybody else is.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
I'm cool with it.
Aaron hasn't said anything. Aaron, thumbs up. Good.
So I think, you know, I think we could, looking through, so there's this table, the point table, which goes through the different things that we had established, like what your primaries were. And so if you're looking at role player, you know, the rubric would have for example, for Chris, or actually, so we have 3 people who are primary as role player. And so a 30-point gain would be frequent and effective use of role playing to accomplish a goal, acted, not rolled to accomplish task. You know, 40 would be did something out of the ordinary role-playing wise, a clever speech or interaction in the game. 50, very effective or clever use of role-playing, a clever interaction or important role-playing moment. And then the equivalent for the primary for Josh, for Warrior, would be, starting at the basic, it's used combat skills often, even if not exceptionally effective. The mid-range there, the 30, is frequent and effective use of combat skills, defeating the most dangerous opponents on a given combat challenge. At a 50, effective or clever use of combat skills, defeating several opponents in unexpected or unusual ways. So what are your take on your primaries and like how you did during the session?
I'm going to mention again that there is that second page from 60 to 80.
Well, yeah, there is. But I don't know. Like, you know, so combat skills are absolutely critical to the entire session in this game session. Without the character's help, I mean, party would have been totally defeated. That's 70.
I mean, I would argue for 60 for Josh, because absolutely critical to the character in this game session, allowing the character to defeat a major opponent or long-term nemesis single-handedly. He did take down the air car and most of the Zetatech crew.
Okay.
You know, and you know, he didn't defeat a major long-term enemy, but he probably created one.
Yeah, and that's the same thing,
right?
I mean, it is.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's his origin story. I can see that.
Yeah, I think I would. I think I'd be good with that. That sounds.
He created plot.
Yes, he did.
And tension.
Yep.
I missed a shot, guys.
One of you have a 50%. You have a 500 batting average. That's pretty darn good with that rocket launcher.
That was pretty good. Yeah.
If we're going with baseball terms, not that I follow baseball.
So for our
Ken would
for
tell
our
us
3 role players, I've been following the Mets this season. Which means I haven't actually watched any games this season. I've just watched like all the news stories about how horrible the Mets are.
I just keep hearing that batting 500 is a good average.
Oh, it is, and I have to say, having coached baseball, trying to convince like 12-year-olds that striking out 2/3 of the time
is actually still pretty good.
Is actually still pretty good. is hard because, they're like, but they want to hit every time, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, no. Actually, if you were batting like 300, you'd be doing pretty good in the bigs.
Yeah.
So anyway, how do you guys think you did role playing wise?
I feel like we were all at least at 40. I mean, I thought Erin's take on Omen and her reaction was really good.
Yep.
I've been ribbing David, but I think that just is a tribute to how well he's playing Angry Bob.
I mean, Angry Bob, he rubs people the wrong way, even though he tries to make friends, So
yeah, I think that's going to be the tension between our two characters, because APT does her best to kind of stay in the background, do the business, like any net runner, right? Mm-hmm. And you're like up in everybody's face and stuff, and so that's going to create that tension. But I think you've been doing a really good job with that. So I think at least a 40 for those. You could make the case that we got to very effective, especially since each of those things shaped the story as we got into things. I mean, Angry Bob shooting his mouth off before the beginning of the heist kind of set things in motion, and Omen's reaction after the heist. We had at least 45 minutes of role play and quips around that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Advocating for myself, I did do the intros, even though they may not have come out very well.
It's true.
Doing the speak of I still have a job to do, and doing like the speech even when we're like almost about to start combat. It was epic. I loved it.
I think APT has the added challenge as a role playing of like, because you are like the more of the background character, it doesn't lead to those like obvious standout moments. But I think they were there and consistent in the background, right? Like and helpful in moving everything along, right? And the quips with.
I want APT to be that person that doesn't say much, but when she does, it's usually a zinger of some kind, or it makes a point. It's just she's very, very precision.
I would hope that as APT gets more comfortable with the group, that she'll open up to the group more, and that'll give you more opportunities to role play.
I think that'll happen. I felt like that was starting to happen with Omen. I felt like there was probably going to be a sub scene in there somewhere. Mm-hmm. I think it's all heading in that direction. But I'm also trying to keep in mind that you four are effectively strangers at this moment.
Right.
But it can definitely head in that direction. Yeah.
You're strangers in a very dangerous world too, which is another thing. Like you don't really want to let people in too quick,
right?
Especially in this kind of setting,
right? So I think Erin's like the whole, I'm glad you remembered it, Erin, because I have a tendency to forget at the end of a session, like that emotional sort of like, yeah. But it's great that I think that Omen was pissed off and came into camp, and then it drove the whole tension of this episode. It could have been a very like sort of downbeat sort of thing as we just kind of like relaxing, but I think it created, so I think that's 60. Yeah. So I think, and the nomad background, like we touched on it a lot. I think it was a very important part of this particular adventure, and I think maybe. I mean, I could see 60s for
we would have had a very different
at least 50. I think
we would have had a very different adventure had Omen not brought her clan in and got the other nomads to loan us a car and all that other kind of stuff. We probably would have had to have hit the facility before the truck left, or like set up some sort of roadblock. Getting a taxi out here or something like that, and then have to walk back.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, so it might be Erin could be a 70, right? Like role-playing actions were critical to entire party in this game session, changed entire game outcome through convincing role-playing.
Yeah.
I'd be cool with that.
I think you just argued us into 70. Right? Because, I mean, at the end of the day, Erin like really set up a lot of this stuff, and it was almost entirely derived from role playing, not just like roles, right? This is an interesting aftershock, like self review. So, I mean, I'm thinking of the baseline. So, I mean, Bob did a lot of stuff that, like you say, did set some things in motion. So I could see 60 for Bob.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be okay with that. I don't know that I was necessarily
Chris,
critical to the party, so that would be 70. So yeah.
Yeah.
I think you caused some really good comic relief.
Unintentional.
To be fair, that first session, you also.
I did talk us out of and almost into the same combat.
Yeah,
True.
Which is even more like it's very nuanced role playing, which is even better. I got us out of the combat, but you know what?
Then my mouth almost got us back into it.
I'm like crazy.
Yeah,
so I almost got us back into it, but
Changed.
Honestly, I see David's character as the main character with which is being narrated this world and the experiences. So I see Angry Bob as our tour guide.
Angry Bob's like
this
our
was a book,
narrator.
We'd be with Angry Bob.
Documentarian is the idea behind Angry Bob.
Yeah.
Main character, not necessarily, is what I'm saying. Is like you may have an emotional attachment to Angry Bob because he's the narrator and a character at the same time. But it's more than just Angry Bob show.
What is a sports thing without the color commentary, right?
Yeah,
right. So,
you got to have the announcers going, "Oh my goodness!"
So, Chris, where do you think APT falls into this?
I would throw myself at a 50. Nothing that APT contributed from a role-playing standpoint I felt was critical. I was particularly proud of the swinging the electromagnet around and actually hitting the AV, but I don't know that was critical. So I would throw myself at a 50 for the role play.
I did like the touch of pulling in your background, because they hit you with this over and over again, is that you should be looking to your character backgrounds and life path as informing things. And so I think you pulling out that connection that APT had to the European nomads, you could have easily forgotten about that, and the rest of us could have forgotten about that. But having that, kind of bringing that up as a subtle thing, and that kind of points out to Omen, hey, right, I do kind of have this sister on the team who shares at least some sort of life experiences, right? Which hasn't become a big thing yet, but it could. You know, depending on where we go with the Nomad storyline. So.
And I spent a lot of time on her background, so that's going to be coming in. There's so many hooks there for you, Ken. So many.
Yeah, I know.
So yeah, I'm pretty proud of that.
I'm going to argue with you, Chris. I'm going to argue with you there. I think APT is a 60. Her non-reaction was part of what lowered Omen's temperature.
I was also going to say the entire warehouse situation where
it's been 2 months. I forget what.
Right, I'm trying to remember. Was that
the entire warehouse? That was the APT show right there.
Well, that was our pre-stream stuff that we didn't actually record. Our initial go around. So if we're including that, for sure,
still take it. Yeah, sure.
All right, then sure, I will happily accept the judgment of the party.
So we'll say that the group was, I think the group was a solid 50.
Okay.
So do we want to ×3 the combined experience? So for Josh, by way of example, that would put you at 110 normally. ×3 would be 330.
Yeah, that'd be the same for me.
Does that seem like that would let you basically level up your characters for next time? But I don't know that it's going to be transformational. And I think part of what we're trying to do here is get a feel for the game itself. And I think we played them enough over the 4 sessions to be able to have a sense for what your character was capable of. So I'm cool with basically people being able to level up in some way for the next arc.
So where does that put us at?
So I'm going to do some math.
So Aaron was, I think, 70. With the base 50, so that's 120, so that's 360 for you. And then I think everybody else gets 330, because I think we talked everybody else up to a 60.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, that'll be enough to take me from 4 interface to 5 interface, and that might be about the end of it.
Unless you want to, actually, yeah,
I
you
have to
could
read
buy
through.
a new
I-
skill at rank 1. Yeah.
I think the interface will get me more bang for my buck.
Yep.
So downtime. So kind of transitioning a little bit. Like, so I think we'll figure out like how everybody's going to choose to level up later. Downtime. We established that Atlas only needed 3 days to recover his hit points, and he doesn't need any special surgery or anything like that, which is a different sort of level of trauma that would have created additional context. How much downtime are you guys thinking of taking? So Cyberpunk RED has a check mechanic for figuring out what you do during your downtime. I think it's on a weekly basis, right?
Mm-hmm. Sorry.
So how much time are you guys thinking like you go about your regular lives while you're setting up your next run?
Well, go ahead.
I know I want for Omen to be working through some of her issues with Aikido.
Okay.
I know APT would expect probably about 2 weeks, and she would be doing other jobs and hustles in that meantime.
Yeah, I figure a couple weeks is probably enough for us to lay low long enough where we're not automatically just jumping into the next job, but, you know, give us some time to see the fallout from our previous job.
All right, you want to say 2 weeks?
Yeah.
It would either be 2 or 3 weeks for Angry Bob, because living in a cube motel, eating kibble, and
well, I also want to get into lifestyle.
Doing the media hustle is just not good enough.
Yeah.
So let's talk lifestyle. What are your guys' lifestyles?
Well, as I said,
I have APT.
yeah, I'm eating kibble. You know, the horrible food you might not buy for a dog you liked. Once a month, you can see a movie or a brain dance. And then I'm in a 500 EB per month cube hotel. And that is going to leave me 350 EBs after that lavish expenditure.
All right, so that's a good like sort of. And how much does kibble cost you?
It's 100, and then 500 for the cube hotel. I could have gone generic pre-pack, which is food that is much better than kibble by comparison. And each weekend I could afford to go out and have to a good bar or party or have a sit-down meal. You know what? I am going to go to generic pre-pack, so I'll have 150 left because Angry Bob has to socialize and go out and meet contacts and talk with people. And so I think generic pre-pack is as low as he can go in terms of food and entertainment.
Okay, cool. So we'll also, with 3 weeks worth of downtime, you'll also earn money on your side hustles. So,
Yeah.
APT, what's your lifestyle?
She's living the kibble lifestyle, mostly so that she can afford a better place to live. She has a cargo container.
Okay. Sorry, what was the generic prepackaged cost, David?
Generic pre-pack was 300, so it's triple the kibble. Angry Bob can't even afford the cargo container, which is 1,000 EBs a month, which is luxury. And he's like, man, if we had taken the 10,000, I could almost buy a cargo container for that. I'd only need
then I can start
another
renting
5,000.
it out, right? Aaron, how's Omen living?
Omen lives, I would say, a little bit more dangerously than everybody else. She sleeps in her car and eats kibble. So she just likes being with her car, even over a cube hotel. So I guess I'm going to have to be rolling a survival check.
Well, you're living on a street in a vehicle, so that's endurance. Yep.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay. Where's endurance? It's under body? Oh, there it is.
Oh, weird.
I didn't even see
Yeah,
that.
actually, you and I saw something earlier saying that it was a survival check, but now both of them say
That's to live out in the wild.
living in the
Yeah.
street, not
At the
not sleeping
wilderness.
in the wilderness. Got it.
All right, what page was the lifestyle on?
378,
378.
377, and 78.
Okay. All right, cool.
Yeah, Bob might need to up his endurance from level 0 if he's going to be working on Cube Hotel, because the next step down is on the street.
So it adds to her crankiness because she's fatigued.
So presumably, I think maybe we would at the end of the 3 weeks downtime, we'll just do like a final roll for that and determine like how you come out of it, right? Because
Yep.
presumably you have some good nights and some bad nights.
Okay.
But most of the time, you're just sleeping in your car, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
The book
yeah.
says sleeping in your car will leave you fatigued the next day. So yeah, that makes sense to
Right.
roll it at the end.
Yeah. So I guess
But it might impact your given background check or given your lifestyle rolls. And so then, who am I missing?
Shake and bake.
Angry Bob. Oh, no,
Shake and
wait.
bake.
Shake and bake. Shake and bake. Atlas.
Shake and bake after the job is done is going to go back to his cube with his what's the generic pre-pack for a specific reason. He's bringing home a little treat for his little kitty cat that he lives with in his cube. Got a little kitten. His name is Scratches. He's got a little scar over one of his eyes. A little stray that I found and took in. He lives
Sleeping next to a cube. A cube hotel.
It's
You have
500.
a single windowless room with a nice strong lock where you can touch both walls if you spread your arms. Flat pack furniture folds out of the walls, converting your cell from a chair with a desk to a bed with a small television, and you share it with a litter box.
Yep. But it's cheap.
I don't think Omen would feel comfortable in a situation like that. I think that would be really bad for her. So that's why I'm going to go with the sleep in her vehicle because it's under her control then, which is, I think, more important to Omen.
I just assume I don't have a car.
Yeah, APT does not have a car.
Yeah. Bob gets around on public transport.
I'm walking everywhere that I go.
So we're at 11:40. We've done a lot of bookkeeping. We've now figured out kind of the baseline for where your characters are at. Do we want to quit here and then finish up downtime at the beginning of our next session? We could allocate 45 minutes or so to go through it. We could also handle it offline if we just want to talk about the consequences of it. What's your preference? 'Cause I don't think we can get through everybody in 20 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, okay. Quick question related to it. Is this going to happen before or after IP expenditure?
That's a good question. What do you got? What's your?
Then I would say let's go ahead and handle it offline, so you can think about it. The difference is I think I'm probably going to go up to rank 5, which is the next step up in terms of hustles.
Gotcha. Right. So I think here's what I think we do. We level up between sessions.
Okay.
And then we'll kind of report out at the beginning of the next session. And then I think it would be cool to record downtime to just talk through what happens, and then we can riff on what happens, and we'll see how far we get in that particular session, because we kind of have a tendency to skip over downtime, but I think it would be fun and have some role-playing opportunities that we should at least try it. Definitely. And if we decide it's actually not that interesting to do from a recording perspective, and we'll just handle this through, Discord going forward. But still, it'd be fun to try it once.
The other question is when is I keep thinking rollerblades, but what was it called again? The rocket.
Rocket
blades. When is that going on?
So I had originally said it was going to be at the end. So it's happening throughout the whole month.
Okay.
Right. So those would be some of the backdrop, perhaps even for your own jobs. And so it would be hitting its climax at the end of the month.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. So that
you got
in
about a
terms
week
of the
of it being
media,
in the
That's
background.
something.
in terms of the media hustle, he's probably covering like the human story behind the Rocket Blade competitions. So is I think where Angry Bob's going to be for his hustles.
Gotcha. And so the one last question I kind of have from a bookkeeping perspective is, what year is it? Like 2046, 2045?
What's the difference between the number?
I don't think there is. I think it's really
All
just
right.
picking a date. So is it? I'm kind of thinking.
You said that there's events
it
that
is-
could happen. So my take on it is you pick whatever is going to be the most fun,
Okay.
and just let us know what year it is. So
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I will do that.
Cool.
all right,
I'll do a little research.
well, thanks everybody. We do this. We're not streaming it right now, but we plan on doing it in the future. But check out layersecrets.com, and all our social stuff is on there. So head on over and tell your friends.